All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. The WBO going hard at the WBC. Man, I haven't heard a lot of times that we're sanctioning bodies start fighting with each other. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Also, thank you to everybody that supports the chat on the Patreon and the live streams, through the Super Chat and the Cash App. Thank you guys very much. And definitely people that sit and watch the videos that we do. All right. You ever heard the phrase, the pot calling the kettle black? Now, I don't like that phrase because, of the whole color thing, but it means somebody that's guilty calling somebody else that's guilty. That's like Bob Arum calling Don King a thief. Like who, huh? You're just as crooked as he is. What do you mean, right? The WBO is mad at the WBC because the WBC is giving out too many belts, and the WBC is starting to do things that they don't like ordering people who are ranked in other organizations, ordering them to fight their champion. Giving out multiple belts, like Tyson Fury is going to have some ornate belt associated with his fight with Otto Wallen. Right? Now, first, I ain't big on all these belts. The Onyx belt, the silver belt, the turquoise belt, the Aztec belt, the bubblegum belt, right? The zirconium belt. Man, look, it's so overdone that it demonstrates what those belts really are. What those belts really are a belt. They're a belt that is acknowledging by a commission of people, by a sanctioning body, that they approve this fight. And the WBC is treating these belts like they're pieces of artwork that they're giving to the fighter, and just acknowledgement and trying to market the WBC name, right? It's like the belts are now they're a marketing tool, right? And and with the WBC handing out so many and creating so many, that's what it is. That's in essence, it's what it is. And even with the franchise champion, they were upset about, the franchise champion with Canelo Alvarez and Jermall Charlo and all that, how that stuff went on, right? So look, I'm not going to defend all of these belts because none of these belts are championship belts. None of these belts, except for the one, the actual WBC belt, signifies that you're the best fighter in the world in that weight division. That's not what the rest of those belts don't signify that. They're just like a stamp of approval or something like that. That's the only way that you can look at them. Same thing with the franchise belt that Canelo Alvarez has. So I understand the point from the WBO. But the WBO criticizing the WBC because they will mandate people that are ranked by the WBO to fight their champion or to fight people ranked in their organization. What's wrong with that? That seems to me like you're actually forcing the unification of the belts. You're forcing the people who are actually the best fighters to fight one another. That seems like pretty reasonable to me. But the WBO, now this is where the hypocrisy is in this. How dare the WBO, also known as whatever Bob orders sanctioning body, get the nerve to criticize anybody about how they hand out their belts. The WBO is so bad that the PBC, with their relationship with Premier Boxing Champions, that there's a rumor that the PBC won't even acknowledge them as a major sanctioning body anymore because they are so obviously in the pocket of Bob Arum and promoters. How could, how do you fix your mouth to say anything? with the reputation that you have. Vasyl Lomachenko, and see, this has been a Vasyl Lomachenko week, right? Vasyl Lomachenko is the greatest fighter ever conversation that goes on. He's pound for pound the best, right? Because this fight just happened. A month ago, after Keith Thurman and Manny Pacquiao, I had to hear that about Manny Pacquiao, right? Just fans get all excited about their fighter, the week after their fight. Why they would get excited after that performance by Vasyl Lomachenko, I don't get. Seeing as he fought Luke Campbell and got dotted up and hurt. He got dotted up a good bit by Luke Campbell and by his own admission. And thank you, Vasyl Lomachenko, for admitting it. Because if Lomachenko hadn't admitted it, nobody would believe it. Lomachenko got hurt by Luke Campbell. But since we're in the midst of talking about all the great things that Vasyl Lomachenko has done, including having won a championship in his third fight, fighting for it in his second, that conversation points to exactly why the WBO should keep their mouths shut, talking about what anybody else does. How can Bob Arum negotiate with Vasyl Lomachenko before he signs for a championship fight in his second fight? Lomachenko wanted to fight for it in his first fight. He wanted to walk into the pros and fight for it in his first fight. Bob Arum says, no, but we can do your second fight. How did he get a shot? Was he ranked? He got ranked he got ranked by the WBO in his after his first professional fight. That must have been one hell of a performance for you to get ranked inside the top 10 with one fight. And Bob promised it before Lomachenko had ever even turned professional. That's crooked. That's ridiculous. The WBO you can go down and know from what weight classes who's going to be fighting for that WBO belt. It's going to be a top-ranked fighter. It's going to be passed from a top-ranked fighter to another top-ranked fighter to another top-ranked fighter to another top-ranked fighter. That's what the WBO is. The WBC, I will definitely give them. The WBC will bend over backwards for fighters. The franchise belt thing, come on. That's ridiculous. Either the guy's going to be a champion or he's not going to be a champion. Just because he's made a lot of money for a fight, for the WBC, or he's got a significant reputation in the sport of boxing, that should not allow them to have some type of special privilege when it comes to determining who the best fighter is. If you are the biggest money maker, the way that it should be, if you were talking about really who's the best, is if you fight somebody and you lose, you're gone. Next up. I don't even think these guys should be allowing rematch clauses where they're allowed to say, well, yeah, I'm going to make it's voluntary. I get a chance to fight for that belt again as a part of the contract that takes place between two fighters. When it's the WBC's belt that's on the line, that's supposed to signify who the champion is. So there's a lot of craziness going on with these sanctioning bodies. My personal belief is that the way that you fix that, the way that we improve boxing is we get rid of at least two sanctioning bodies. My personal choice for who you get rid of, the WBO and the WBA. The WBC and the IBF seem as if IBF seems like they're willing to defend, they're willing to live by their rules. There's somebody that would actually strip Canelo Alvarez for not defending his mandatory. They didn't say, well, we're going to give you, some extra belt and allow you to come back and fight whenever. The WBA does things like strip Guillermo Rigondeaux of his title for fighting in a weight class that was 2 weight classes above him. And if he lost to Vasyl Lomachenko, he loses his belt. If he wins against Vasily Lomachenko, he's got 10 days to decide whether he's going to keep the WBO belt or the WBA belt, or they're going to trash him. The WBA, if you're not an established star and somebody that they are really on the side of, or their promoters are on the side of, they'll treat a fighter like trash. The WBO just does whatever promoter's paying them the most money wants to, right? So I would go for the guys that actually two, because I think it's fair, two sanctioning bodies, okay. Two, and get rid of half of them weight classes. But the WBC and the IBF to me seem to be the ones I would keep around and the ones that I actually have respect for. The WBC seems like they try to work with the fighters to get people to fight one another. The IBF seems to be very set on their rules and enforcing their rules. The WBO and the WBA seem to be almost exclusively the pawns of promoters and pushed by whoever is paying them the most sanction fees. Anyway, that's my take on it. Because with the WBA, they never even stripped. Keith Thurman hadn't defended a belt in 2.5 years. They didn't even try to get Keith Thurman to defend the belt. Anyway, it is, and they've got 50 belts. Anyway, it is what it is. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.